Hello and welcome. You're watching Race to Power with me, Ananya Datta. But before we get into our bulletin, some breaking news coming in from West Asia. US believes that Iran is preparing to launch a missile attack on Israel. The White House says that US has indications that Iran is preparing to imminently launch a ballistic missile attack against Israel. Now, Israeli army says that it is ready to quote-unquote defend and also attack amid the US warning. According to latest information, Israeli army has said that it has not detected any aerial threat from Iran, at least for now. Now, United States has also rushed additional troops to West Asia and says that it will stand by its ally Israel at all times. This, of course, comes as Israel carried out ground offensive in southern Lebanon. A senior official of the White House has said that US actively supports defensive preparations to defend Israel against the attack. US has also reiterated that any action against Israel will have quote-unquote severe consequences for Iran. This is a developing story which we are tracking closely here at WION. Now, all of these developments come in as Israel has said that its ground troops have entered southern Lebanon. But interestingly, Hezbollah has denied these claims that Israel has crossed into the Lebanese territory. Meanwhile, some comments coming in from the Lebanese Prime Minister, Najib Mikati. He has said that Lebanon is facing one of the most dangerous phases of its history. Now, correspondent Siddhant Sibul is joining us on the phone line. Siddhant, what are you hearing?
Well, it's a significant meeting, the Indian NSA Ajit Doval meeting the French president. Remember that these kinds of meetings, when it comes to an official visiting from any other country, it's not easy to happen. But essentially, talking about this visit earlier in the day, the Indian NSA met with his French counterpart, and essentially that's part of the strategic dialogue. The focus, of course, remains on defense. We know that France has emerged as an important defense pillar.
All right, as we were saying that there are some new warnings coming in from Washington, D.C., where United States is saying that they are hearing that there could be a quote-unquote imminent attack by Iran towards Israel. And Israeli army has so far says that it has not detected any aerial threat towards its territory. And this comes as Israel says that its ground troops have entered southern Lebanon, something that Hezbollah has denied. It's also worth mentioning here that the Israeli army has said that it's conducting quote-unquote limited and targeted raids against Hezbollah. And this comes after Israel targeted the Hezbollah leader Hassan Nasrallah and killed the leader on Friday. And we are staying with West Asia. Most of the world woke up to a ground incursion by Israel into Lebanon. While geopolitics of West Asia is constantly changing, we look at Israel's domestic policy, specifically the wartime Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu. In September last year, Netanyahu had one of the worst approval ratings. Protests of a judicial overhaul reached his doorstep, but a month later, Hamas's attack changed the course of the future. From an anti-democratic prime minister, Netanyahu quickly reclaimed his Mr. Security tag, only for a year later to face protests at a bigger scale. Now Israelis have branded him as Mr. Death. They have criticized his leadership, his government's handling of the war in Gaza, and the failure to rescue the hostages who remain in Gaza. All this while Netanyahu's political future is on the line. But something changed this week. The killing of Hezbollah chief and a direct confrontation with the Iran-backed group has altered the wind in Israel. A poll for Israel's Channel 12 indicates that Netanyahu's approval rating has been boosted. In fact, if there was a general election today in Israel, the Prime Minister's Likud party would win more seats than any other party. However, not an outright win, but a coalition that would ride Likud to power and hence making Benjamin Netanyahu as the Prime Minister of Israel. Now, how today's ground incursion is seen by the Israelis is something we will have to see. However, history shows that wars bring high approval ratings for presidents. Lyndon B. Johnson saw it after the Vietnam War. George W. Bush's rating increased after US's invasion of Iraq. And in our times, Ukraine's Volodymyr Zelensky has seen overwhelming support. But the story of Israel is different. Netanyahu sits in a precarious situation, and with US claiming an imminent missile attack from Iran towards Israel, the situation could very easily change. Now, in just hours from now, the US vice presidential debate will begin in New York City. The fairly unknown men, J.D. Vance and Tim Walz, will face each other. It might be the first and also the last time that the nominees will take the debating stage, since the election campaign is already in its last leg. What both presidential candidates, that's Donald Trump and Kamala Harris, lack is compensated by their VPs. Trump comes from a billionaire real estate family. Harris comes from an academic family who entered her seat at California DA's office. But both Vance and Walz are running on their rural middle America roots. Tim Walz is a two-term governor and former congressman. He was first elected to the US House in 2006, but he has been leaning into his roles he held before entering politics. He keeps talking about his time as a high school teacher and assistant football coach. The situation is similar when it comes to his Republican counterpart. J.D. Vance is currently the governor of Ohio and came to political limelight through his memoir, Hilly Billy Elegy. He is highlighting his tough childhood and connecting his personal issues to the electoral context, be that childcare, abortion, or embracing Christianity late in his 30s. Vance is also actively backing Trump on every single comment to make sure that his past anti-Trump comments fade away before the election day. So once both the vice presidential nominees' resumes are kept side by side, as on your screens, their strategies appear to be the same. Let's now tell you what we know about the debate. The duration will be the same as we have seen in this election season, that's 90 minutes. CBS News will be airing on its broadcast network live at 9 p.m. local time. A few rules are different than the presidential debates. The two sides have agreed that the microphones will be hot throughout. CBS's anchors Nora O'Donnell and Margaret Brennan will moderate the debate. But the media network has already clarified that it would be up to the candidates and not the moderators to fact-check each other in real time. Each candidate will have 2 minutes for a closing statement. Vance won a virtual coin toss and hence will speak last. And just like the presidential debates, there will be no live audience tonight either. Now correspondent Susan Tehrani is joining us live from New York to get us the latest. Susan, good to see you. How are the two men preparing for the big night?
Yeah, preparations are underway. We do know that for Tim Walz, Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg has been standing in. And also there has been sort of this debate camp going on. J.D. Vance, he doesn't really have that kind of traditional preparation. But it'll be very interesting to see how these two men try to really win the hearts and minds of the American people. As you mentioned, it's just one debate. So, those preparations are underway, but I think a lot of Americans are going to be looking to see, first of all, front and center is going to be the response to Hurricane Helene on the one hand, and then also foreign policy, which usually doesn't really fare at vice presidential debates, and it's not the first few questions. That's going to be front and center as well. Of course, the economy, immigration, abortion, healthcare as well. So, there's a mixed bag. J.D. Vance's challenge is going to be to try to not only stick to the issues, but also paint Tim Walz and Kamala Harris as an extension to the Biden administration and not a new face. J.D. Vance himself will have to answer for some of the controversial comments that he's made.
Absolutely, it does seem so. Thank you so much for joining us and giving us all those updates, Susan. Now, Indian National Security Ajit Doval called on French President Emmanuel Macron. Macron has stressed the value of Indo-French efforts to advance peace and address global challenges. The French president appreciated Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi's initiatives. NSA Doval, on the other hand, reiterated his commitment to implement Horizon 2047 roadmap. And for more on this, Assistant Editor for Foreign Affairs Siddhant Sibul is joining us on the phone line. Siddhant, what do you have for us?
Well, it is significant that the Indian NSA met with the French president. Let me tell you that going by protocol, it is a really difficult meeting when it comes to head of state or head of government meeting happening. But it's the Indian NSA, and with India, France has strong relationship. In fact, we know that right now conversation is going on for the Rafale Marine variant. This is the conversation which is happening. The Indian government had given nod to buy it from France last year, and currently what is known as the best price which has been given by French side has been given out, and this is expected to be part of the conversation as well. In fact, earlier today, the Indian NSA met with its French counterpart, Emmanuel Bon, in Paris, and the focus was, of course, the strategic dialogue, and this is a relationship which encompasses defense as one of the key pillars. We know the Shakti engine is something that is also one of the key pillars of the defense relationship, and also focused on the Indian Ocean as well, where, of course, the French and the Indian ships plan to have more engagement and exercises. But essentially, other than defense, it's also the other aspect of the relationship, particularly at the multilateral level, where we know that at the UNSC, the French have been supportive of India's aspiration to become a permanent member of the UNSC, something that the French president spoke last week at the United Nations General Assembly. So this is, of course, a relationship that is growing leaps and bounds. Last year, the Indian Prime Minister was the chief guest at the Bastille Day parade, and earlier this year at the Republic Day parade, we saw the French President Emmanuel Macron being honored at the grand parade that happens in Delhi. So essentially, we will see more outcomes and engagement between the two sides. But currently, the Indian NSA Ajit Doval's big visit is underway in Paris.
All right, Siddhant, thank you so much for all those updates. India's Jammu and Kashmir has successfully conducted the third and final phase of assembly elections in the valley. The latest voter turnout as of 7 p.m. stands at 65.65%. The day witnessed high security presence and thousands stepped out to cast their vote. Multiple layers of security had been deployed in border areas of Jammu and Kashmir as well. Areas like Baramulla, Kupwara, Bandipora, Kathua and Udhampur are close to line of control and international border, where polling is underway amid tight security. 29 polling stations are situated near the line of control. Voting took place from 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. local time. A total of 40 constituencies were on the ballot today, with 16 constituencies in Kashmir division and 24 constituencies in Jammu division. Over 20,000 polling staffers were mobilized on Monday across 7 districts of Jammu and Kashmir. The Election Commission of India set up 5,060 polling stations with 240 special polling booths. Like the Lok Sabha election in a few months ago, Voters in Jammu and Kashmir have stepped out in large numbers for the first assembly election in 10 years and also the first after government revoked the region's special status in 2019. For the people of the valley, a statehood for Jammu and Kashmir remains a top issue on the ballot. Other problems like rising unemployment is also a key concern for voters, making it a major electoral issue.
It's our right. Ours was a special state. Laws like Article 370 and 35A that prevented outsiders from buying land have been abolished by the Parliament. We will urge the Parliament to give us back our statehood.
We believe in justice. This is not a political trial. It's a trial of a political party for political reasons. But the judges are impartial and independent, and they will see that we have done nothing but what is legal and fair.
Votes will be counted and results for the assembly election will be announced on October 8th. Voter turnout back in 2014 was just over 65%. Early indicators from all three phases reveal a similar trend, but for the people of Jammu and Kashmir, the stakes are much higher this time. Now, our special correspondent Reese Lone has a report from Bandipora.
Assembly elections in Jammu and Kashmir took place after 10 long years. But what was the most interesting was that it also was the best in terms of the voting percentage as compared to the previous elections. All the records have been broken and the third phase of the election concluded today, and it also broke all the previous records, including the first and the second phase, by a huge margin. What was most interesting in these elections was the participation of youngsters and especially the women. We have been to 3 districts in the Kashmir Valley since morning, from Baramulla to Kupwara to Bandipora, and everywhere we saw a huge participation of women in these elections. And now it's to be seen who the winner will be, and that will be decided on October 8th. With video journalist Firoz, Idris Lone for WION World is One.
We're shifting focus to Sri Lanka now. After recent defections, the country's opposition party, the United National Party, is witnessing a possible political shake-up within its ranks. The Counter reports prominent members of the UNP are cozying up to SJB Sajid Premadasa after recent rout in the presidential elections. According to reports, among the several UNP leaders who are discussing plans to join Premadasa's party are former UNP Minister Naveen Dissanayake and Ruwan Vijayawardena, the deputy leader of the UNP and senior advisor to Ranil Wickremesinghe. The instability within the UNP has become increasingly apparent following the recent defections of Varuna Rajapaksa, an organizer from Gampaha, and Mahesh Sinayaka, an organizer from the Yatin Nuvara. Both leaders have joined Sajid Premadasa's camp. Insiders reveal that many other UNP members are also planning to leave the party, signaling a growing shift in allegiance towards the opposition leader. According to reports, the wave of defections has been driven by dissatisfaction over the lack of progress in forming a potential alliance between Sajid Premadasa and Ranil Wickremesinghe. Premadasa laid out conditions for the alliance. The conditions included becoming the leader of the new alliance, Wickremesinghe stepping aside from the UNP, as well as having the authority to appoint the alliance's general secretary. But under these conditions, a partnership between the two seems increasingly unlikely. However, discussions are reportedly underway within Wickremesinghe's camp on the party's next steps as they engage with other political factions in an effort to navigate this growing crisis. And our correspondent Dasnia Thauda has a report from Colombo.
The fissures between the United National Party and the Samagi Jana Balavega may ultimately be a rerun of what was experienced during the recently ended presidential election, which only means that if the leaders of both the parties, former President Wickremesinghe and former opposition leader Sajid Premadasa, if they are unable to come into a sound agreement to form a broader alliance, it would only result in the weakening of their party's positions that might result in a lower number of seats secured in the upcoming parliamentary election. Stay with WION as we bring you the very latest. Reporting from Colombo, I'm Dasumia Powder.
And in an important story coming in from France, far-right leader Marine Le Pen and 24 others from the National Rally are on trial. They face charges of embezzling funds from the European Parliament and diverting them towards the party. Arriving at the court earlier in the day, Le Pen remained confident. The 56-year-old says that no political or regulatory rules of the European Parliament had been violated. Le Pen vowed to present the judges with extremely serious and solid arguments. At the trial, party leaders rallied their support for Le Pen, calling it a politically motivated trial.
We believe in justice. This is not a political trial. It's a trial of a political party for political reasons. But the judges are impartial and independent, and they will see that we have done nothing but what is legal and fair.
Prosecutors have accused the National Rally leaders, including Le Pen, of hiring assistants to work on party affairs rather than for the European Parliament, which paid them. Between 2004 and 2016, that is. Allegations also detail that one of the people hired as a parliamentary assistant was actually working as a bodyguard for Le Pen and her father, up for another possible run in 2027. The trial is expected to last for nearly 2 months. If Le Pen is found guilty, she could face fines and imprisonment and potentially be declared ineligible to run for office for up to 10 years. Hitting her presidential ambitions, she ran in presidential elections in 2012, 2017 and 2022.
Merci de votre présence pour cette conférence. Le Parlement européen respectera-t-il la démocratie?
And Mexico makes history as the country gears up for its first woman president in Claudia Sheinbaum. In a short while from now, the Morena party leader will take oath in the presence of several international leaders and delegates. Ahead of the swearing-in ceremony, the president-elect already made some critical changes to her cabinet. Sheinbaum has made Edgar Amador Zamora as her new deputy finance minister. Sheinbaum will finally assume office months after winning the election in June. The 62-year-old will succeed President Andrés Manuel López Obrador. The outgoing leader addresses his final press conference as president on Monday. In a surprise move, Obrador gave away his watch in a raffle.
We are not going to have time for questions and answers. But we are going to have time for what I offered you. You're going to be happy because we are going to raffle the watch.
But all was not well on Monday for both Obrador and his successor Claudia Sheinbaum. On the eve of a swearing-in ceremony, hundreds took to the streets to protest the controversial judicial reform. Judicial workers gathered outside the Revolution Monument in Mexico City, chanting slogans with lights and candles in their hands. Shifting focus now, Kenya's political landscape is witnessing a growing rift between President William Ruto and his number two. In a dramatic turn of events, several lawmakers have set the push in motion to impeach Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua. Now, Gachagua has been accused of undermining the government. Here's a report.
Kenyan lawmakers plan to launch impeachment proceedings against Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua. That's according to Parliament's majority leader speaking on Sunday. They accuse him of undermining the government. The move could add to the government's challenges after deadly month-long protests. It reflects a widening rift between President William Ruto and his deputy. Gachagua's spokespeople on Monday did not return calls seeking comment. In recent days, Gachagua has spoken of being sidelined. He denied accusations linking him and his associates to the unrest, calling it a futile attempt to soil his name. On Sunday, he told reporters that any impeachment motion would require Ruto's assent. Gachagua commands support in Kenya's populous central region, and efforts to unseat him could stir up discontent there. More than 50 people were killed in the unrest against the financing legislation. Protesters opposed tax hikes contained in the bill and demanded action against misgovernance and corruption.
In other news, political discourse and debates between a country's lawmakers often turns heated. Ruckus in the parliament is also not uncommon, but sitting members of parliament setting things on fire as a form of protest, that is unusual. But it's what happened in Albania when opposition leaders piled up chairs from the assembly hall and set them ablaze to protest a lawmaker's imprisonment. And with that, we're wrapping up this session of Race to Power. Thanks for watching.
Know more, understand better, think ahead. Hello and a very warm welcome. You are watching Gravitas with me, Molly Gambhir. Get the facts, not the bombast. On the 26th of March, dynamic pricing, Baloch separatists, Gravitas cuts out the clutter. Gravitas keeps calm when others scream. Gravitas brings news to life. Weekdays, 9 p.m. IST, 3:30 p.m. GMT. Gravitas. Seeing is believing.
Ready to dive into your daily dose of news?
Bringing you what's trending in the West and all that's setting trends in the East.
And all of this served up with a side of insightful banter.
We don't just bring you the latest stories.
We bring you your talking points for the day.
And while you do that, from the busy streets of New York, I will provide you with deeper insights on the developments through the course of the day in the U.S.
And I will be here at the WION headquarters, getting you all the action from the universe of sport. All that you need to know about your favorite teams and players, right here.
The show that keeps you ahead of the global curve. A conversation you'd want to be a part of.
A place where news becomes an engaging exchange.
We bring you stories that impact your present.
This is World DNA.
Join the conversation.
To bring the benefits of the Subhash Chandra Show to your educational institution, teachers and students, send an invitation to Juhi Jha at juhi@such.org.in.
From the bustling trading floors of Wall Street to the vibrant exchanges of Asian stock markets, WION breaks it down for you to make sense of what's happening. As we reveal the key factors behind events, strategic battles, and the game-changing business decisions that shape the world. We bring you all of this and more on World Business Watch.
YO1 Health Resort is unique, the only one of its kind. Experience the 4 paths of natural wellness: yoga, Ayurveda, acupuncture, and naturopathy. Each uniquely customized program improves the whole person to make every person whole. Come to WION Health Resort. Make your reservation at WION.com.